What's up, guys? This is Eric Devendorf, host of the Scores Table podcast. Today, our guest will be Hall of Fame coach Jim Boeheim. We're going to be talking about everything from his playing days at Syracuse, Team USA coaching experience, and now him coaching his son. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast and join the brand new Field of 68 network. We're going to be talking Cuse basketball all season long. Coach, I appreciate you coming on.
Good to be here.
Appreciate it. So, Coach, we're going to get into a little bit of everything, man. We're going to talk about you used to playing at Cuse, when you used to play Team USA, and then we're going to talk about what it's like coaching Buddy, and a little bit of everything else too.
Absolutely. Anything you got, I'm ready. I haven't had any interviews in a long time, so it's been quiet.
Okay, so you came into Syracuse in 1962. You were a walk-on, but then by your senior year, you ended up being the team captain. What led you to Syracuse? And, tell me about that playing experience, playing and going there.
Well, I was from a small town not far away, and there really wasn't much recruiting done in those days. I could have gone to a couple small schools, but Syracuse was going to make a push for the big time in basketball. They just won the national championship in football. Okay. So, they had a new building. I came down to visit. The coach was a great talk. Fred Lewis was a great recruiter. He brought in 7 guys already. So he didn't even have a scholarship, but he talked me into coming. And if I played well, I'd get one. But it was just, I thought Syracuse was going to be a big time program, new building, big name school. And I just took a chance. I said, this could be good. Of course, I got here in the first year. Dave Bing's the greatest player we've ever had here, and he just dominated every practice, and it was like, wow. But the other guys, I was as good as the other guys, so I just had to kind of work through it, be patient. And after I had a good freshman year, we had freshman teams then, but then I got a scholarship after that year and played, quite a bit as a sophomore and a lot as a junior, and started as senior year. We went to the finals of the regional. We lost to Duke in the Eastern Regional Final in a game we could have easily won, but it was a great experience, and all worked out really well for me.
And speaking of Dave Bing, he was not only was your teammate, but he was your roommate as well, right?
2 years we were roommates, and he's just a great guy, unbelievable guy on and off the court. Taught me a lot about a lot of things, just his attitude, how he carried himself. He was a great leader and, a great player. He averaged 29 points, 10 rebounds, and probably 6 or 7 assists. They didn't keep him that much then. And probably 3 or 4 steals a game. He was a phenomenal player. Second pick in the draft, of course, all-pro, top 50 NBA players, rookie of the year, led the league in scoring, I think, that year. He's a tremendous player, and of course went on to be a successful businessman, mayor of Detroit, big charitable worker today, does a lot of things for kids in Detroit today. So great role model, great example for everybody, really.
So when you first saw Dave play, you being from Lyons, it's not a big city, not a huge city, right? So the first time you saw Dave play, what was going through your mind?
Well, I was the best player in our area by quite a bit, really, so I never played against anybody better than me, really, because I went to a couple camps, but there were no great players there. So I was shocked, when I saw the first time I saw Dave Bing play, I was like, oh, this guy's in another world. And, he's just a phenomenal player. He was a modern athlete in 1962. He was 6'2". He could dunk any way you wanted to. And quick, run, fast, just like a modern player, really. And, you didn't see those kind of guys back then. They just weren't around. You got to remember, Syracuse had set a record and lost 24 straight games in basketball before we got here.
Right.
So to turn it around that quickly, obviously he was a great player. We went to the NIT as sophomores, and then there were only 16 teams in the NCAA and 16 in the NIT. So you had to be good to get to the NIT.
Yeah.
And we had a great senior year. So but he was just such a great player, and we had a really good team. We averaged 99 points a game. which
Wow.
was the most in the country at the time. Vegas went past us. There's only been a couple teams that have scored more than we did. That was a lot. 1965, 66. We averaged 99 points a game. That's a lot of points.
And that's with and that was with no 3-point line.
No 3-point line.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We pressed, we pushed it, we ran, we did. We had a lot of mobile guys, 6'7", 6'6", 6'5". We were small, but we had a lot of speed.
Yeah. So after you're done playing at Cuse, you went and played professionally in Scranton for the Scranton Miners.
I played in the Eastern League. You could play there. I went to grad school and started coaching, but on the weekends I would go down and play Saturday and Sunday. You play 2 games. Again, remember there's only 12 or 14 NBA teams back then.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a lot of great players. We had, I think, 16 teams in the Eastern League, 8 in each division. And you just drove down and you played Saturday night, and then you drove someplace and played Sunday, mostly in Pennsylvania, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, those places, Allentown. But Wilmington, Delaware had a team. Jersey had a team. Eventually there were teams in Connecticut had teams. But a lot of teams, and it was really good basketball. Sold out every gym, small gyms, 2,000, 3,000 people, but sold out. People really liked the league because, then there was no NBA on TV. NBA 1 game a week,
Right.
Sunday, that's it. So people loved the game, and it was a great league. And the first year I was there, it was really competitive. Then everybody left after 1 year. The ABA formed, so all the really good players left. I wanted to stay in coaching and, working in grad school, so I stayed, and I went from being, an okay player in the league to one of the better players in the league in 1 year. And back then, you made $200 a game in 1967. So
Wow.
You made $400 on the weekend, and that was a lot. Heck, that was a lot of money. Now, we played 40 games. I probably made $8,000 down there, and that was, 10,000 was a good salary.
Yeah.
8,000 just for playing basketball. So I went to grad school and coached, and started in coaching, coached the freshman team, and did that for 5 years. And then finally I had to make a decision. I was the assistant coach in the 5th year full time. And, I had to travel with the team, be there for Saturday games. So I had to get out. And, but it was a good run. It was a lot of fun. It was really good basketball, but it was time to get into coaching full time that 5th year.
So do you have a Scranton jersey? I mean, do you?
I don't think I have anything left from Scranton.
No, because you won 2 championships, right? So
a couple, I think 2 or 3 in 5 years.
Any trophies or anything, or what?
No, I don't think there's anything left from Scranton. We played with the Scranton Miners, and then the last 2 years they changed the name to the Apollos. But it was really fun. It was you drove 2 hours to Scranton. Then if we were playing Wilmington, it was another 3.5 hours. So you drive about 5 hours on Saturday, play the game in Wilmington on Saturday. Then you drive back Saturday night late, get back at 2 or 3 in the morning, 3 hours back, play Sunday, and then drive back to Syracuse. So it was about 10 hours of driving every weekend, and then play two games. And, I'd drive to Wilmington. I'd drive 5 hours from Syracuse. I'd get there at 6 o'clock, and the game would start at 7.
So you were coaching while you were playing when you're doing the.
I was coaching the freshmen and coaching with the varsity Monday through Friday.
Wow, and then driving to go play down there. So what was the main factor in you stop playing and wanting to coach?
I had the freedom early because I was really part-time grad assistant, but I worked with the varsity, every day. But there was a one full-time assistant, so he would be there all the time, and I would leave on the weekends. So I'd go to all the weekday games, but I wouldn't go on the weekends. And but once I became full-time in the 5th year, then I had to get out of basketball playing and just get into coaching. Because at that time you only had one full-time assistant.
Right.
So
Was there someone who like influenced you or mentored you to go in that direction, or was it
No,
just
I knew after a couple of years I wanted to be in coaching because I had a chance to go to the NBA after my first year in the Eastern League.
yeah,
My coach in the Eastern League, Paul Seymour, got the Pistons job. So he offered me a contract to come to the Pistons. But,
mm,
I was in school, I was coaching. They had, Dave, Bing, Jimmy Walker, and Howie Comives. That was their backcourt. I mean, those three guys were way better than I was. So I'd have been the fourth guard and probably wouldn't have played at all or any. And it just wasn't a good fit. So I stayed in. I was in grad school, played on the weekends and coached. And, it was a good decision.
yeah, obviously. Right. So you went from grad assistant to assistant,
Yeah.
and then eventually the head coach when Roy Danforth left in, I think it was 1976.
Yeah.
What was that like? Going from grad to assistant, and then eventually,
Well,
getting a coaching job.
the full-time assistant, you did all the recruiting back then. You ran the camps, you did everything. We'd run summer camp, I'd run that. I did all the recruiting, ran it all, and went out all, and did all the scouting. Then we scouted in person. Now we just get tapes. But then we scouted every team in person, and I had to drive. So I'd drive to New York City, see St. John's play, and then drive back and be back for practice the next day. So a 10-hour ride. But it was a lot, but it was a good experience. And we started to come back. We went to the NIT the first couple of years I was full-time. And we got going, and then we, started making the NCAA tournament pretty regularly. And, we got to the Final Four. It was really a miracle. I mean, we had a miracle win in the Palestra against LaSalle in the regional in the second game of the regional. We beat Firm in the second game. Joe Bryant had a layup. Kobe's father had a layup at the buzzer. It was tied. He had a layup, and he missed. And so we won in overtime. Then we playing North Carolina. They were up 3-2 the whole game. End of the game, we stole the ball. We got to 1, and then Jimmy Lee drew a charge on Phil Ford. Great player.
Yeah, Phil Ford, absolutely.
He came down, got inside, threw it out, made a 15-foot jumper, and won the game. Then we played Kansas State in the final. We're down 2 with 6 seconds to go. We got to go the length of the court. We had the fastest player in the country, Jimmy Williams. We got to Jimmy. He dribbled the length of the court. They came to him. He threw it to Rudy Hackett, and Rudy Hackett made a layup. And so we got into overtime and won in overtime. So we went to San Diego. It was like a monster Final Four. John Wooden was coaching his last Final Four at UCLA, Louisville, and Kentucky, and Syracuse. We were just the upstarts. The North Carolina team we had beaten was Mitch Kupchak and Phil Ford, Walter Davis. And so they were rated, number 1 team in the country, and we beat them. Unbelievable upset. But so that was unbelievable. Then Roy coached the next year, but his reputation had grown, and so Tulane came after him that next year, and he took it and opened the door here for me, and the rest is history, I guess.
But what I heard though is you almost ended up somewhere different than Syracuse. I heard you.
Roy announced on like a Monday he was leaving, and nobody knew. It was a shocking thing. So I was scheduled to go to Rochester for an interview, Division III school, but they had an aggressive athletic director. He wanted to go Division I, said he would, which they never did. But they had a good facility. It's a rich school. They got a lot of money. They would be good Division I school if they went. They're top in Division III. But I interviewed there, and I think I was going to get the job. And I came back, and then I said, okay, I'll interview here at Syracuse on a Friday. But I told them, I said, they were going to wait 2 weeks. I said, well, I'm not waiting 2 weeks. I've got a job, and I'm going to go to Rochester. If you don't, I played here, and I'm the assistant here, and I should get the job.
Right.
And I walked out of the room, and they came and got me and said, no, you got the job. So could have gone the other way, but
yeah,
it's ironic because another guy, a good coach, got the Rochester job, and he won a national championship at Rochester. He was there probably 35 years at Rochester, 35 years. So he was there almost as long as I've been at Syracuse.
Yeah, well, it all worked out how it was supposed to, for sure.
Yeah, it worked out good.
Yeah. So your first year, you take over 1976-77 season. You guys go 26-4.
Well, it was a miracle. I got the job. One of the reasons I told him I needed to get the job right away is we're recruiting Roosevelt Bowie, and
Yeah.
he was deciding between us and St. Bonaventure, and Bonaventure was probably in the lead because he didn't like Roy that much. He just didn't hit it off with Coach Danforth. So, but he liked me. We had talked a lot. I did all the recruiting. I was with him a lot. So I said, we got to get this guy or we're going to lose to Bonaventure every year. He's the best center in the East. And so that was part of it. And I went right on the road and got him and Rick Pitino. I hired Rick Pitino in New York City on his wedding day, made him give up his honeymoon, come up here.
I remember that story, yeah.
Yeah, it's a true story. He went up to Cincinnati and got Louis Orr. So we immediately had two great players, and we had four guys coming back, four starters. So, we were 26-4. We could have been 28-2. We had a really good team. We were a really good team. We beat one at Louisville. They were really good. We won some big games that year, and it was a great start having those two guys. And then back then, everybody stayed 4 years, so you knew you had them for 4 years. Yeah. So we were good for the first 4 years. We won 100 games, which was the most at that time that first time anybody had won 100 games in first 4 years of coaching. So it was a great start. They're great kids. I mean, it was unbelievable. They never did anything wrong. They good students, did everything they're supposed to do. Worked hard. It was spoiled me in coaching. It isn't always like that. It's not always that easy.
I know, Coach. Coach, I know. I put you through it. I put you through it sometimes, Coach.
Yeah, that happens. Eric used to get me trouble all the time. But I said, well, you're helping me win enough games. I can put up with you for a while. But, that's the way it goes in coaching. And you're going to have young guys, and there's going to be issues. That's just the way it's going to be. All kids 18, 19 years old have some kind of issues, but we've been pretty good over the years. I mean, we've been very relatively have really good people who really haven't been much of a problem. They've been fun to coach, and if you're a competitive player, you're gonna like you were. You got hot sometimes when you when you really shouldn't have, but that's part of being a competitor. You want to do better, or you get mad, and then you strike out a little bit when you shouldn't. But it's better that way than not care. I want guys that care about it and want to win and play to win, and we can work around it.
That's one thing. I mean, that's one thing I tell people too when they ask me about you. I tell them, I mean, he's the same as me as far as when you get out competitive spirit and competing. I mean, I heard coaching practice all my time there, and I was on staff. I heard, you got that fire in you just like me. So you understand where, those guys are coming.
When you're younger, you just sometimes don't control it well. And that's something you have to learn as you get older. And you learned that stuff. But some of the biggest competitors I've ever had, and, Sherman Douglas he was a killer in practice, and he'd try to beat people up that were playing against him. He'd do whatever he took because he was from the street, and he was a street fighter. And but he was a great player, too, a great player. And then you get somebody like Pearl, who was the most easygoing guy in the world. Pearl never said anything to anyone. I never saw him get mad even. He beat you. He'd just go by you and score, but he never really, go after you or anything. Every different personalities. When you're a coach or a teacher and you get a group, all different personalities, and everybody has a different attitude, different how they approach things. And as a coach, you've got to be able to work with everybody. You can't, it's not easy. If coaching was easy, everybody would do it. There's a reason that coaches only last, I think, an average of about 4 years as a head coach or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not really that easy. And the first thing is you have to have good players. And if you can get good players, then you got a better chance, obviously. I've seen some really good coaches that didn't get good players, and they were out of coaching.
Yeah. No. So, I mean, talk about those earlier years, we talked about Louis and Rosie, and then obviously Pearl and Sherm, and then, later comes, Ronnie and DC. How, having all those guys and all those talented guys and winning early on, how did that factor in for your coaching career going forward? Like, how did that, help your confidence, or, what did it do for you?
Having so many different kinds of teams and players, which you're going to get over the years. And, sometimes, coaching is funny. Sometimes you can do a great job and maybe only win 20 games. You just weren't quite good enough. And other years you can win 30 and maybe you could have won a couple more. And, as coaching, you always think you should win more. And fans, of course, always do. I remember one year we lost 3 games, in the last part of the game. We could have won. I mean, 3 of them that, came down to the end. They made a shot. And everybody said, well, you're not winning the close games. But they forgot we won 8 games that year that were decided at the end of the game, which 8 is good, 8 out of 11 close games. Usually in close games, they always say, well, coaches win those close games. Usually, if you look at good coaches' records, even great coaches' records, in the 1 or 2 point games, they're usually about 500, normally. Especially if you're playing good teams. If you're playing a bad team, then maybe you would beat them more often than not if it's a close game because you're better. But you're playing equal teams and you get into close games and 1 or 2 point games, you're going to end up winning 50% of them, and it's pretty good. And some years we won 60 or 70 or 80% of those games. I mean, we have had a streak. It's been unbelievable to me. We had won in 16 straight overtime games at one time. And to me, that's incredible. I think even now we're like 18 out of 24 overtime games, which is incredible. And, the game you were in, the 6 overtime game, we were behind in all 5 overtimes.
Yeah.
We should have lost that game about 20 different times.
Yeah.
Jim Calhoun's still mad about that game because,
yes, he is.
They had the game won. They were up 4, they were up 6, and Johnny Flynn made 16 straight free throws in the game. If he'd have missed any of those in the overtime, we would have lost. We needed every one. And it was just such a crazy game. You start playing at 9:30. It was a little late, 9:30, 9:40. We started that game, and we finished at 1:20 in the morning. I mean, that's that's incredible. I mean, I've had 100 people tell me they were watching the game someplace and they had to keep a bar open or to make so they could see the end of the game. They were in Hawaii or someplace. I mean, it's just one of those legendary games that you can't really even place the value on it. It wasn't a tournament. I mean, it was a Big East tournament, but it wasn't an NCAA game. But other than an NCAA game, it's the greatest game you could ever be a part of. And you could have ended it. You were about maybe a tenth of a second from making the shot you made it, but it was about maybe a half a second late.
Yeah.
As it turns out, I'm glad that what happened because we had we're part of a historical game, no question about it.
Absolutely. Without that, I mean, I tell everyone that was kind of the start of the drama. And if you look at like the setup, how it was, I mean, we were playing our rival, we were playing UConn. It was in Madison Square Garden, ESPN with the Big East tournament. So like you said, it wasn't a NCAA tournament game, but it had that feel of a big time. You know what I mean?
But the Garden was big. The difference for the Garden, we're in the ACC and the league tournament's tough and everything, but people don't go to the games. They just go to the finals in the ACC or if Duke or North Carolina is playing. But in New York, in Madison Square Garden, every seat's taken. It doesn't matter who's playing. The first round games. There's people, like I know people went from Syracuse, they bought extra tickets, they got down there. We had about 4,000 people get tickets. You're only supposed to get 1,500. We had 4,000 or 5,000 people get tickets, even to the early games, because they go to every game. Yeah. They just sit there all day long. And, they like basketball. They love basketball. So that was what made the Big East so special. And then the last 2 nights, the semifinals would be just standing room. You couldn't get in the building. And then the finals, same thing. It was incredible. We made one of the things people don't talk about much, and I'm not quite positive, but I think we played in 16 finals in the Big East tournament, 16 or 17, and nobody did that. I mean, we won 5. Georgetown, Connecticut won 7, but we played in 16 or 17 finals in the Big East tournament. That's a pretty historical number to be able to make the finals that many times.
No, absolutely. And it's funny too, because during that game, people, what overtime did you foul out, or how many minutes did you end up playing? So I think I fouled out in the 4th or 5th, but I want to talk about Johnny Flynn, because this guy right here, I mean, I tell people one of the best guards to ever come to Syracuse, just as far as like he had everything, and he played in his right here mindset. It was just like at a whole different level. You know what I mean?
If he hadn't hurt his hip, he would have been a great NBA player, but the worst thing you can have is a hip or shoulder. And he had a bad hip injury. He never got back. He never could move like he could in New York. And he played almost every minute in New York. I mean, he played all but I think 2 minutes of the game. Yeah. So you're talking 40-minute game, 6 overtimes is what, 30, 70 minutes. I think he played 68 minutes. And, you know, down the stretch, you were out. Everybody was out except Paul and I think Johnny. They were the only 2 starters, I think, at the end. Yeah. And Johnny, he must have scored 16 or 18 of the 20 points we scored to get to the final overtime. You know, he was going. Connecticut was the number 1 defensive team in the league. I mean, they had
the beat in the middle. Oh man,
they had good guards. You know, they were really physical, and he just would not be denied. I mean, he made 3 or 4 plays in each overtime that had to be made, or we would have lost. I mean, they were clearly better than us in all of the 5 overtimes. We were fighting to hang on. I mean, I almost gave up, and then the one real one, we had to run that. We ran that play for Andy. They took the 3-point lead with 20 seconds to go, and Andy came off a deep curl and made a 3 to tie it. And they had last-second shots, 2 or 3 of the overtimes to beat us, and we stopped them. But yeah, that was an unbelievable win to get that win. It really was.
That probably had to be your second favorite all-time game.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there's nothing like winning the Final Four. You know, we had a young team. We weren't rated early, preseason, no ratings. We got better as the year went on, but, you know, until we went to Michigan State, we won at Michigan State. They were down actually a little bit, but still tough place to play. And the kid Hill made 11 threes.
I was at the game, Coach. I was at that game, and I was committed to Michigan State.
Yeah. Kid made what, 10 threes, 11 threes, something.
10 threes, yeah.
It was crazy, but, you know, Jerry and Mello played great, and we win. We won by 1. Then we went down to Notre Dame and won there. So, you know, that's good. So when we got in the tournament, we went to Boston, which we ended up having a lot of fans there, a crazy amount of fans, most of them. And we won. We had a close game with Manhattan in the first game. It was, you know, it was a 6-point game. We won. Then we're playing Oklahoma State in the second game, and they're up 25-8. So we're down 17 points. And, you know, Eddie Sutton's a great coach.
Yeah.
Great players, great team. 2 brothers, Grahams, that played in the NBA.
Mason, Desmond Mason then?
He might have been there. They were good, really good. And so we pressed them, and somehow we get back in it, and we finally, we win. And, so we go to the next game. We go to Albany, and we got everybody. 16th, every fan in the building's for us.
Yeah.
And it was louder as in the Carrier Dome. And so Auburn's pretty good. We led most of the game, but it got close. We win at the end. They made a 3 at the buzzer, but we won. We had a 4-point lead. So then we played Oklahoma. They were number 1 seed, and we just blew them out. Played good, got them out. So now we go down to the Final Four, and Texas had beaten Connecticut. Connecticut had beaten us in New York. So Connecticut was really good.
Right.
And Texas was really good. But we played really well. Mello had played okay in the region, in the run-up, the first 4 games. Okay, good, but not great. But against Texas, he took over the game, had 33 or 4 against the defensive player of the year in the Big 12. And so we beat Texas. Now, Kansas beat Dwayne Wade and Marquette by 35 in in the other semi. I didn't want to watch it. I just didn't even show any film. I just said, we're going to get back. You got to take Kansas running game away.
Yeah.
So we got back. Jerry made 6 threes in the first half, and we had an 18-point lead. I mean, we almost were on the verge of blowing the game open. But, they were too good. They were really good. They were really seniors, 3 or 4 seniors, really veteran team. And they got back in it, but we kind of hung on and had just enough to win the game. But Kansas was probably quite a bit better than us that year. But, sometimes that happens in sports. And we ended up beating Big 12. We beat Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, in Texas, and Kansas, all teams from the Big 12, all 4 teams. It was ironic that would happen. And it was the same year that we had played Missouri and beat Missouri. So we beat like 5 teams from the Big 12 that year. It was crazy.
Was it something earlier in the year that you kind of knew you guys might have a chance, or seeing Melo come in, like having a player like that, you're just like, all right.
He was so good right away. You could see it. We actually lost in a preseason tournament in New York. He had 28. Jerry had 26.
Memphis, the first game, right? Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were good. They were good. They played good. We couldn't beat them. So then we got going. We won. We played well. Georgia Tech came in. They were good. We beat them by 30. And, you could see we've got something here. We got a chance, won at Georgetown. But the Michigan State Notre Dame games on the road kind of gave us an idea, that we can do something this year. I didn't really think national championship. I thought Sweet 16 maybe, but we'll see. I mean, our 2 best players were freshmen. Hakeem was a sophomore. Craig Forth was a sophomore. So Josh Pace, sophomore. The only senior was Queth Duane. He was really good, solid player. And Jeremy McNeil, 2 seniors.
Billy Elam.
Billy was really good, sophomore, really good player. We had 8 really good players. And we had 2 solid centers. And, it was just a really good team. And it all worked. It worked for us. It was a great run, no question about it.
So going back to the Michigan State game, so I was at the game. I was committed. I mean, being from Michigan, it was kind of, especially during that period, it was like the best guys in the state usually they either went to Michigan or Michigan State. So I was committed, and I remember going to the game. I think it might have been with my AAU coach, but I remember seeing Melo and GMAC and Hack and just the pace, like how you guys you guys got up and down, especially that season, because you had the guys to do it, and then you had the shooters to be able to spread the floor. But after that game, I remember telling my coach, I was like, I'm gonna have to decommit and then see if I could go here. And then he ended up calling. And then what happened was maybe 2 weeks later, it was you and Coach Weave flew down to Detroit. And I don't know if you remember, we had practice, AU practice at Detroit Denby. And it was a bunch of other coaches there, Texas and Arizona. But I remember after practice, you and Weave coming up to me and talking, and Weave was just like, so you want to come? And I was like, yeah. And that was but Michigan State, that was it. That was kind of how it started. Yeah. I was like, I saw you guys, because I was Michigan State. Like that's how my coaches had me, like this. And then when I seen that, I was like, oh no, this is how I got to get up and down. Yeah, this is how I got to play.
Well, we're a guard-oriented program too, and when you came in and played with Jerry and Andy Routens too, I mean, it was a good system for you. Our system is a good system for guards. We've had 6 guys picked in the first round, guards. So I mean, in the last 10 years. So I mean, it's a good system. It's a guard-oriented system. You do a lot of things with the ball and running and being able to put the ball on the floor, that stuff, which is what you did. And there were some great games. I mean, when you were young and you and Jerry helped win the Big East tournament in New York, we had an unbelievable run, winning a couple overtime games, a couple other games that were behind at the end, and came back and won right at the end of the game.
Yeah.
To win the tournament 4 games in 4 days. The first time that was done.
Well, that was me being a freshman, that was unbelievable. But I just remember the first one where I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. I was at Notre Dame. It was the Big East game on the road. And we won. We beat. They had Torrin Francis, Colin Fall, Chris Quinn. I think McIlharney, if I'm not mistaken. They had a good team, but me and G-Mac, we both had 20 plus, and I remember him. He had a crucial up and under at the end of the game, and that was kind of sealed the deal. But that was kind of like on the road, first Big East game for me. That was it. Like right there, I was kind of like, all right, this is it. I know I belong here.
Jerry was, obviously, he's an Irish Catholic. He never lost at Notre Dame. They used to yell, they used to scream at him the whole pre-game warm-ups. They would be screaming at him, and he'd just get madder and madder. And it was the wrong thing to do. He just went out. He lit him up every time at Notre Dame. We had Mello, and even with Mello, Jerry just lit him up. He would pull up and just knock down a three and look over at the fans. And he never lost a game at Notre Dame. 4 times we went there. He won them all.
Yeah, playing with him, it was just like, my twin in the backcourt. I mean, just he was the same type of mindset, ferocious. He was just, when you got out on that floor, it was a whole different animal. So in my mind, Coach, the winningest coach in NCAA history, without a doubt. But obviously the NCAA, when they ruled that they had to take 101 wins away from the program, how did that make you feel? And, what did you feel about that decision?
I don't worry too much about that. I mean, we know how many games we won. So, it's just one of those things. And it's ironic because 30 of the games we had a player who spoke someplace and got $200 that, he shouldn't have gotten. And so we found out about it. He turned the money back. But you have to, if somebody does something wrong, which we didn't think it was wrong because we gave the money back, then you have to apply for reinstatement. Well, we never applied for reinstatement because we thought he paid the money back. And so we lost 34 games because of that, because he played in 34 wins. And the other was something that was really, usually they don't take games away from, but they did. And it's just one of those things that you can't fight them. And it's unfortunate, but we've got a lot of wins, and I'm not really too concerned about those wins. We'll just keep coaching and get a few more. And, again, it's like, how many games you won.
No question. They can say whatever they want to say.
We didn't do anything that helped us win those games. And if you recruit illegally and get somebody here illegally and they win games for you, then take the games away. But we didn't do that. This was a minor thing. So, it's
dumb.
It's not good. Yeah,
right. It's not.
But, you just try not to think about those things and you move on, really simple as that. And we've never cheated here to get a player or to do something for a player in 45 years I've been head coach. So there's a lot of other schools that have been caught cheating to bringing players in, paying players. We've never done that. Kind of know that in recruiting when there's a kid from New Jersey that goes down to the deep south and the kid and you talk to him and you say, well, where is that school? Well, I'm not sure. Right. And you're going there?
Yeah.
But so that's something that, and the problem is it leads that a lot of people think, well, everybody's doing it. And it's not really true. I don't think everybody's cheating. I really don't. I don't think Duke, North Carolina, those schools, I don't think they cheat. I think they're honest. I think they're above board. I think the schools in the Northeast, we recruit hard. We try to get players, but I don't think anybody's paying players to come to their school. I mean, it could happen, yeah, but I don't think it happens much. I don't think Michigan State, I don't think Tom Izzo does that. I just don't think so. I think most schools don't do that. But there are some sections of the country I think they do that.
Next year I think it's your image and likeness, you get to get paid for it next year, right?
Yeah, and I think it's a great thing. It's great for players. The problem is it can lead to some unbelievably bad abuses. And, you want to and really, I think it's more likely, like in football, say, you get a quarterback and your best receiver and a couple of good defensive players, and they get commercials all of a sudden for $30,000, $40,000, right? And you're the tackle on the team.
Yeah.
and you got to protect those guys. You're not getting a penny. How do you feel? Now it's the same. Everybody gets a full scholarship. And the ironic thing is, in college basketball, there's 300 schools. There's 3,500 guys playing college basketball, and 3,000 of them are happy to have a scholarship. They're not going to be pros. They're good students. They're good. They're getting their grades. They're playing basketball. But 3,000 of them are happy to have a scholarship, and the other guys are going to make money in basketball someday, either in the NBA or overseas. So, and kids are pretty well taken care of today. We can give them some money now because we give them food, and so we can give them some extra money. So they have their scholarship and they have money. So it's a pretty good deal right now. The image and likeness thing will be good. I mean, our kids will be able to go to the mall and sign autographs and make a couple, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
Yeah.
And one or two of our kids will probably get a commercial on TV. Now, what I'm afraid of is there's some places, well, they may cheat anyway. Now they'll really be able to cheat. They'll say, you come to our school, you get a commercial for $50,000. That could happen. Probably will happen. And it's legal. It'll be legal. It'll be perfectly legal. But with the internet, I'm not sure. I don't know that much about it, but I think you can get enough people following you that you could get commercials on your space or your whatever it's called, your platform or your account. And so, but on the other hand, kids will get to make money. I mean, there's no doubt. Players will be able to sign autographs. They'll be able to give lessons. They'll run a camp. I think a player at Syracuse can legitimately make $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, which I'm good with. I'm fine. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
But I think we've lost the value. Like I got a scholarship. I was happy. I was happy I got a scholarship to go to college. I didn't feel I needed to get paid. I mean, I know the other thing that bothers me is, well, you're making so much money in college basketball, your school. Yeah, but we spend it on all the other sports. There would be no other sports if it wasn't for basketball and football. So at the end of the year, Syracuse, we're a pretty big athletic program. We break even. And to break even, we have to fundraise to break even. We don't break even on just the revenue because, women's basketball spends just as much money as we do. They travel, charter, all that. So that's $3-4 million. Somebody has to pay for that.
Yeah.
And women's field hockey, men's track, lacrosse doesn't. Well, lacrosse does make a little money, but not much. And all those sports.
It's football and basketball that are bringing in the money, basically.
That's where the money comes from, and that's true at every school. Very few schools actually make money on sports. Texas, Michigan, Ohio State, but even those schools, they've got so many sports and so well funded. I mean, Ohio State sells 100,000 football tickets a game, sells out their basketball game. They end up breaking even at the end of the year because they have all these other sports. It's different. The bottom line is the kids that are really good are going to make money. They're going to make money out of basketball. And they're 18, 19 years old. So there's no reason they should be getting money now.
But now the thing is they got to have somebody telling them what to do with that money now. If they're getting that lump sum of money, now, we part with it.
That's true of every athlete. There's too many guys that I can't even count them all who go in the NBA and make some money, and they don't realize they're only there. Some are only there 3 or 4 years, and they spend every penny they make, and now they have nothing. So, I mean, I know guys that played 10 years in the NBA and made $40 or $50 million that don't have any money because they just never. I mean, I've even talked to those guys about what you should try to do, but. A lot of them are now learning to handle it better, but that's always been a problem.
That should be a mandatory class.
Well, we try to talk about it a lot, and we try to get the agents, and some agents are really good, and they'll try. I mean, I had one agent was holding money back from a player because he was spending it so fast, but he found out that he was doing it, and he got the money anyway, because it is his money. But he just, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, it's definitely different.
money disappears. What looks like a lot of money, I mean, $2 million is a lot of money. But if you give the government $1 million and you buy 3 or 4 cars for your relatives and a house, and you help a couple other people that are friends of yours, you buy your house and your car, 2 cars, that's $1 million right there.
Yeah.
That's gone. I mean, there was a really good player, famous NBA player that was, I think he's making $3.5 million a year. And he was negative 1.5 for the year. He was spending 5 or 6 million on all the different people around him and things. And of course, when you make $3 million, you only get to keep 1.5 million. So he was really down about $4 million a year.
Yeah, and it's more people like that than you would know, that you would really think of, right? I mean,
it's better, I think, today. I think players are getting better about it today. But 20, 30 years ago, guys that made that money just never had it. They never held on to it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to name a few guys for you, and I just want you to describe their game to me in a few words. Okay, first guy is Derek Coleman, and describe him, and then give me, because like you talked about earlier, give me a story, because I know you got a few.
I got a million of them. Derek Coleman's one of the most talented players I've ever seen, and he actually hurt his foot a little bit, and he wasn't as good as he could have been, but he was very talented. You know, he had 19 points and 18 rebounds in the national championship game as a freshman.
Yeah.
You know, he had 18 rebounds in the regional final against the number 1 ranked North Carolina team as a freshman. He was a tremendous talent, best rebounder I've ever seen. I mean, he had a game up at Providence. He was mad after the game. He was throwing things in the locker room after the game. I said, we won by 15. Providence was good. And he had 8 dunks. He got 8 offensive rebounds and 8 dunks. But he was mad because he never got the ball. And we scored 90 points. They were just guards were just scoring. He was just grabbing rebounds and dunking them. I said, you were 8 for 8. You had 16 rebounds and you're mad. You know, I want the ball. Okay. So next game we threw him the ball. He passed it right out. And I said, Derek, we just threw you the ball. Well, I just wanted to touch it. Derek was Derek. I mean, he was different. I remember the year we made the Final Four, his freshman year, was my first Final Four. We beat North Carolina in the regional final. They were number 1 in the region. And it was an unbelievable upset for us to beat them. And so we're in the locker room. He's mad after the game. Everybody's celebrating. He's mad. I said, Derek, we won. We're going. I know. He says, I know. I want on vacation. I want to go see my grandma. He was going to Alabama to see his grandmother next week. I said, well, Derek, you can go there, not next week. Let's go to the Final Four, all right?
Yeah.
I mean, what? But Derek was, and one year, you know, we go home for Christmas for 3 days, and he'd always come back a day late the first year or so. But about his junior year, he was going home, and I said, you got to be back on the 26th because we were playing the 20th. I don't know, Coach. And I said, well, you got to come. So he didn't come.
I don't know, Coach.
He came back on the 27th. So I said, well, you're going to sit. You know, we're at Providence the next game, big league game. Okay. So, of course, then when we get there, he wants to know why he's not starting. I said, well, we talked. So he's mad. And so we play in Providence, and we play great. So we're up 22-2. He's not in the game yet. So he's really mad. I said, well, you're going to come back on time now, right? You know, so he got in. We won. So, you know, but he was mad, you know, but he wasn't late the next year coming back. He came back on time. But, no, he was a great player, unbelievable player. He was the all-time leading rebounder in college basketball until I think maybe Tim Duncan got him or something. But he was for a long time. And he was a ferocious rebounder and player, and a very smart player. You can show Derek something once, he had it. We've had some forwards that we showed the same thing to 30 times. They still haven't quite figured it out.
Oh, yeah, I know a couple.
Derek, first time. This is what we're doing. Okay, that was it. He knew. It's a very smart player. Chuck Daly said Chuck Daly's the only coach that he played for in the NBA that he respected because Chuck respected him. Yeah. And they got to the finals in the region, the Eastern Conference. because of Derek listened to Chuck Daly, who was obviously a great coach. And Chuck told me, smartest player ever coached in the NBA.
Wow.
That's a pretty good tribute.
Yeah, from Chuck Daly, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, this next guy obviously is one of the greats, Carmelo Anthony.
You knew right away coming in, he just had so much talent because he could shoot it. The day I went to see him in high school, he made a three to start the game. He made a pull-up on the second play, and he drove and dunked it on the third play. And I told Troy Weaver, who had told me this guy could win a national championship. That's why we went down there. And I said, you were right. We could win a national championship with him. And he committed almost right away. And actually could have gone to the NBA. He got his test score at the last test. But he could have gone to the NBA. That was the first year. And he said, no, I'm coming. So he came. And he's a great player. The interesting thing with Carmelo, I mean, he kind of knew he was going to go to the league, but he wasn't really thinking about it. He just wanted to play. And I think if we hadn't won, he might have even stayed another year. But winning it, he was going to go.
He had to go. He had to do it.
No doubt. And he's a great player. He's been a great NBA player. He's got a bad knock. He's been on bad teams, and he's helped them get to the playoffs. But he didn't win because he's playing the Lakers and playing Tim Duncan in San Antonio. It was in Denver. And in New York, they had no players. They're the worst. Phil Jackson, great coach and worst general manager in the history of basketball. But, I was glad he had a good year with Portland. He did a great job this year with Portland. It was fit in really well.
Do you remember that commercial? Do you remember that commercial you were on? So he had a commercial right when he was coming out. And it was funny because at practice when we huddled up after practice, I was like, Coach, man, I saw you in the Mellow commercial. You were like sitting on a stoop. And you were sitting on a stoop, okay? And then so I said, Coach, man, I saw your little appearance in the Mellow commercial, and you're like, yeah, 100,000.
No, there was no. Trust me, there was no 100,000.
Okay. That's what I remember. That's what I remember, Coach.
Oh, that was a story. No, there was definitely not that. But he was just a great player, fun to be around, and he's just a very confident player and knew what he could do, and had unbelievable final two games against Texas and Kansas. Jerry got us going the first half, and then Carmelo finished the game for us against Kansas. He was great.
Yeah. This next guy is pretty unbelievable as well. Eric Devendorf.
The best left-handed driver I've ever seen for a right-hander.
I've heard that, yeah.
Could not be stopped going to the basket, and became a good shooter and ultra-competitive player. And his only, issue was, he just got too hot under the collar. And part of it was most of it was his competitive urge. But, it's hard sometimes to turn that great competitive off, when you should. And some guys can do it and some guys can't do it. And, Eric couldn't do that. But I always admired Grant Hill. Grant Hill is the nicest guy in the world. And he never says boo, but he's a killer on the court.
Yes.
He's trying to kill you on the court. And, it's hard to separate that. It's hard to be able to separate that. And, Kobe was a little like that, just an unbelievable competitor on the court. He just wants to beat you. Anyway, Michael Jordan, he just wanted to beat you as bad as he could every time. So if he was up 20, he wanted to be up 30. If he's up 30, he wanted to be up 40. They never backed off. And those guys are rare guys. Rare guys to get.
I remember in practice, because I'm super competitive. So I just remember in practice, like me and Johnny Flynn, when we had our groups, we had the guard groups and then we had the forward groups. But when what Hop would do, Hop would just make it worse. He'd keep throwing it, water or whatever on the fire. And I just remember one time me and Johnny Flynn going face to face, and then me and Andy. So like you said, I definitely had that fire in my belly. But I think, you helped me feel real comfortable because you gave me that freedom. Like if I made a mistake, you weren't yanking me right away. You gave me that freedom to be able to go ahead and play through it. And I think you trusted me to go ahead and make plays, you know?
But good players offensively, you have to let them go. The only time I grab people out of the game is when they're not hustling or when they do something that I've told them they can't do. You know, I told you can't do that. So you got to come out. But you're going to make mistakes, and good offensive players are going to make mistakes because they're going to try to make plays that are hard to make. But you have to allow them to do that because then they'll feel comfortable to do it. And they won't be worried about, well, am I supposed to do this? Because you can't play the game well if you're worried about, am I supposed to be able to do this?
Right.
So that's a big key. But I love competitive players, and I'm always on their side, even though I might be mad at them for what they do. And you had about 9 lives. You could have been gone a few times, but
I had 9 lives.
You did luck out a couple times. A lot of people thinks that I might have pulled some strings, and I never did. It doesn't work that way at Syracuse, but you figure somebody took mercy on you, and somehow you skated through a couple situations. But
no, but what you stayed. I mean, you stayed by my side, supporting me. So I mean, that was.
I'm going to stay behind our players, even if they made a mistake. I'm going to stay behind them. It doesn't matter what happened. I mean, it doesn't mean it's all right, but you have to back your players. If you don't, you can't coach. You shouldn't be a coach. You won't be a coach for very long. Your players don't believe you have their back. You can't be in coaching.
Right. If you do, if they're not going to trust you, then they're not going to go out and bust their butt for you. So, absolutely. I think personally for me, after I left is when I mentally got better. Not only on the court but off the court, just with everything. And I think a lot of times that's hand in hand because when you got stuff going on off the court, it can affect what you're doing on the court sometimes. So I think I kind of balanced that out and. I feel like I got better as I got older. Sometimes I hear that from a lot of guys.
Well, there's no question you and Derek Coleman matured. You matured. I mean, everybody does. Some take a little longer. Some does take a little longer to mature. But eventually, you figure it out and you know how to do the right things and act the right way now. But it's everybody's different. There's no formula for coaching players that works the same for every player. It just doesn't. You have to be able to adapt. The most important thing for anybody in business or in leadership roles is to be able to adapt to things. Anybody can go by black and white, the rule. This is the rule, that's it. But it doesn't work that way. Nobody. You have to be able to work in the gray area to be successful.
Absolutely. So you brought Kobe up a minute ago. Talk a little bit about your Team USA experience and just coaching with those guys, LeBron, Kobe, all the great players.
To coach the great players is an unbelievable luxury. We started out with LeBron when he was younger. He came with us. He was 21 years old, and they'd lost the Olympics. That's why we were there. They lost the Olympics and hadn't looked very good doing it. They lost the world championship, and we were tasked with turning that around. And so we had a lot of young players. All those guys were young: LeBron, Melo, Chris Paul, Deron Williams, all those guys, young guys. We just gradually tried to turn the ship around. The first year, we beat everybody by 20, 30 points that we were losing to and got it going. We were still a little young, and we lost a game to Greece, and it was just. They played great. We didn't play so good. And we lost. But we learned. And after that, we won 56 straight international games by an average of 30 points a game. So, I mean, we went from losing to beating everybody by 30. I remember one of the foreign coaches told us, "You're not like it used to be over here when we played." Because they had beaten us and we beat them. Spain never beat us. Spain is really good. They were the second best team in the world. But they never were. They thought they were always better than us. We played them in the finals, and in the Olympics the first time, and it was a good game. It was a really good game, but Kobe made a play and we won. And we played them the second Olympics in the finals again. They had 5 NBA players. I mean, and 3 great European players. Another close game, but again, at the end of the game, Chris Paul and Kevin Durant and then LeBron all made big plays, and we won by 8 or 10 points. But they thought they were still better. Then we beat them in Spain in an exhibition game by 30, and then we played the World Championship in Spain, and they got beat before we even got to beat them, and we won there. So, we just lost that one game to Greece, and we should win, but we have the best players. When the best players play, you can win. But like the last World Championship, they didn't have the best players. They didn't go, and they had a great coach. Coach Pop's a great coach, but they didn't have the best players, and we lost. I think they lost 3 games. We had the best players. The best players wanted to play for us because had been bad and they wanted to win the gold medal. And they said, like Dwayne Wade was the player of the year and the second best player of the year in the NBA of the year. And he said, I'll come off the bench.
Yeah.
All came off the bench. And Dwayne Wade was our leading scorer in the Olympics. Played 18 minutes a game, averaged 17 points a game. That's how good he is. I mean, These guys are so good. We'd be up 36-14 after the first quarter. That's how good they were. And, we went out and won 3 Olympics and won the 2 world championships. And, they're so good. And you learn from watching them because they're working. We would have a good practice. And on one team we had Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, had LeBron and Kevin Durant, and we had Kyrie and James Harden, Irving and James Harden. Those were the 6 perimeter guys we had. And every day after practice, they'd shoot against each other. And you watch these guys go around, and Kevin Durant's going 6 spots, taking 10 shots from 6 spots and making 58 out of 60. Klay Thompson's making 57 or 58 out of 60. Steph's making 59 out of 60 sometimes. They're going spot to spot, making 10 shots at each spot. And it just keep going. And we would want to go. We had one bus, so we wait, and they'd shoot for an hour and 15 minutes, and just never stop. And then they'd lift weights. Kobe did that. Kobe was really the guy that set the example. He came in, he worked out in the morning the first year he came. Then he went to our practice. Then he shot at night. And then he had his weight guy there with him. He lifted. He did that every day. And LeBron had never done that. And now LeBron's seeing that. And Kobe just set that tone. And then he'd go out every play. He'd try to kill people.
Yeah.
And so if you're playing, you're going to try to kill back. So everybody game. That's what great players do. They raise the level of everybody's game. And that's what Kobe did. He's a great competitor and a great player. But, it was a great experience. They pros, they play 100 games a year. They know the game. They understand the game. You get them a little bit of organization, but they know the game. They know how to play. LeBron was not good defensively. He got better and better. At the end, LeBron was telling everybody where to go on defense, where to help, what to do. He understood. He understands the game probably as well as anybody, in terms of both ends of the court, where people should be. He really does understand the game. And when he got Anthony Davis is one of the best big guys ever played. I mean, he's a phenomenal talent. We had him as an 18-year-old kid with us in London, so he was just kind of along for the ride. But you could see his talent back then. I mean, he's a phenomenal talent. And LeBron's still there. I don't compare him to Jordan. Jordan, to me, he was the best player. He won 6 MVPs, and he just played every play. He was like Kobe on steroids, better. And it's hard to be better than that, but he was. And but LeBron's a great player. He's become now. I mean, I predicted that way back that he could be the best player. I think he's come to be the second best player. I really think he's earned that title. And I mean, he could do some things Jordan couldn't do, but Jordan was just a different animal. He was unbelievable, phenomenal player. But LeBron's not bad to be the second best player of all time either. That's not a bad.
No, but I'm with you. You're gonna get a lot of guys mad at you with that one, but I'm
Well,
with
young people
you.
don't know. They haven't seen. My sons think LeBron's better. They didn't see Michael Jordan. They weren't there. I was there on the court. I saw him in high school. I saw him in college. And, he's just a phenomenal player. The best ever.
So out of those guys, when you're for Team USA, Bron, Kobe, D Wade, who was like the guy? I think you kind of already answered it, but who was the guy that they all kind of looked up to? Was it Kobe?
Well, yeah, they all looked up to Kobe,
Yeah.
without a doubt, Kobe, and then LeBron became kind of that guy, and then. But they really looked up early. Jason Kidd was a really good leader in that first Olympic team. Really smart player, understood the game. He was at the end of his career, and Chris was young, and Darren Williams played behind him, but they played a lot. They actually played more probably than Jason, but Jason's a very smart player. But we were it just was great to watch. Like Kevin Durant came with us, and when he was really young and didn't make the team, but he was in the tryouts, and then you'd see him, and he'd start to progress over the next couple Olympics, and he is just a phenomenal player. I mean, he's works harder than anybody probably at the game. He's 6'11", and he's long, and he can shoot and handle it. And he's a phenomenal player. He loves basketball. He's a basketball junkie, and just a phenomenal player.
I remember when I was at Oak Hill, and I was a senior, and he was a junior with me at Oak Hill. It was me, him, Ty Lawson, and we had Oak Hill always has all Division I guys. But I'm from Bay City, Michigan, so it's a small city. It might be bigger than Lions, though.
Yeah,
but,
it is.
But I remember going there. My parents drove me to Virginia, and we had to open gym right away. And when I go in there, I'm a confident dude.
Yeah.
But I see this guy 6'10". I've never seen a guy 6'10", and back then handling the ball, shooting the ball like a guard.
Yeah.
And then as we, the year kept going forward, he was knocking on my door to play 2-on-2 every day, or just go and shoot. And just like you talked about him loving the game like this, I was like, this dude loves to play basketball, and that's all we had to do at Oak Hill anyway. But I just remember playing 2-on-2 with him, or just shooting with him, and I'm like, man, this dude right here is going to be unbelievable. Didn't know he was going to be one of the greatest ever, but.
Well, we came back from the Olympics, and the next day he was down in the gym in Washington playing with a bunch of high school guys and just playing basketball. We flew all night to get back, and that's Kevin Durant. He loves to play basketball.
Yeah, he absolutely. Yeah, one of the greatest for sure. So everybody on staff is a former Cuse guy. We, Syracuse, when you hear Syracuse and all the people that are involved with the program, they know it's a big family. Everybody's really tightly knit. Even if you played in the 80s or 70s to played in 2000, I feel like those guys, we just have that camaraderie and that bond. Is it important for you to really keep those guys on staff and have guys familiar?
Well, I would never hire somebody that wasn't good. The fact that they're on my staff, they're good. And they happen to go to Syracuse. If they weren't good, they wouldn't be here. And, there's a lot of guys I'd like to hire that played for me at Syracuse, but have never coached. And it's different. The recruiting, the day-to-day stuff, and coaching isn't just going to the gym and it's okay. Here's how you do this. I mean, a lot of people can do that. It's the recruiting, the phone calls, all the other stuff that's hard. And but I look for guys that are good at what they do. They have to be able to coach. They have to be able to recruit. That's what you have to do in college. And we try to, there's not many coaches that have been someplace for over 50 years. So we got a lot of guys that play for us, and we want them back, and they come back. And so we see them all the time. And that's part of our program. Every program say, well, we're a family, but the coach has only been there 3 years.
Right. Not every. No, I never saw anyone in any program. Maybe Michigan State.
Yeah, yeah.
Tom does a good job of keeping that, keeping that family vibe. But I haven't saw it like at Syracuse. Just how it's through all
Yeah,
the years. Like you said, it's tough because it's everybody had the same coach,
yeah.
right?
It's been a long time. We have a lot of players, and they had good experiences here for the most part.
Yeah.
And we love to have them come back and be part of our program. Really.
No, that's what I mean. That's what makes Syracuse great. I mean, it's a family. So, and like you said, longest head coach in Division I history at the same school. You were, let me see what it was, 45 years as the head coach,
Yeah.
52 years on staff.
Yeah, it's probably even been another year or two because I was a grad assistant a couple of years.
Okay.
So it's probably been. I've been here since 1962, 4 years as a player. So since 1966, I actually started working with the team in '67. So it's really 54 years probably.
That's unbelievable. That's what is that? I mean, what does that mean to you? Like just the Syracuse program and the community, all the relationships you have here. I mean,
That's
that's
where I'm
you're
from,
special here.
that's where I'm from, and it's just meant everything to me. We have great support here. They support our program. They support our foundation, all the charity work we do, and it's great to be able to do that. I've always, when I came here, I just felt this was the right place for me, and it just this never changed, and I've never really had any interest in going anyplace else or doing anything else. So as long as I can coach, I'm going to keep coaching, and if we can win, I'll be coaching.
How long you think that's going to be? Well, I mean, come
As long
on.
as I can do it. I feel great. I work out all the time now, swimming, running, doing all
Yeah,
kinds of
that's
stuff
right.
with my body. So I'm good. As long as I'm healthy, we're going to keep coaching.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you love to do. I mean, it makes you happy. Why not? For sure.
That's it.
So what's it? And this is Buddy. That's my guy. We're gonna talk about Buddy a little bit. What's
Well,
it like? What's it like coaching him and seeing his progression?
well, I didn't think he'd be this good. I thought he'd be good. I thought, his freshman year, he did much more than I thought. He helped us win 5 or 6 games we wouldn't have won. And then his sophomore year, he was, again, better than I thought. He really was good. And I think he's getting better. So he's a big part of our team. I thought he'd be good, but I didn't think he'd be this good. He's grown. He's 6'6". He's strong. He works hard. He works out every day. He was shooting on Sunday night here. He works out every day. If we're not practicing, he comes and shoots here. So, he's earned it. It's fun coaching him. He's a good player. I like to coach good players, and it's been a great experience. It's not easy, to coach your son, but because you want him to do well and you want to win both. So you're thinking of two different things sometimes. But it's been fun, and it's been great. It's been good. When I came to Syracuse, I didn't know if I'd make it here. It was tough, just working my way into the program, and same in coaching. And you never think you're going to coach coaching is pretty hard. You never, you hope you get through 5 years or maybe 10, and that'd be great. And to still be coaching, I just never saw that coming. So I've been very lucky, and it's because I've had really good players, really good assistant coaches, and we have great fans. So I've been lucky, and maybe we'll talk and do this podcast again in another 5 years. I'll still be here, so we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, who wins in prime Jim Boeheim and versus Buddy Boeheim right now? Who wins that one-on-one battle?
Well, he's a lot better shooter, but I was better with the ball, so he'd have trouble guarding me.
So you taking that right there?
Yeah, I'm taking it.
Okay. So last question. So give me some expectations for this season. Any surprises? How's the team looking?
Yeah, we've got a good team. People forget, even though we struggled a little bit last year, we won 6 road games last year, and we were really young. And although we lose Elijah, he was up and down a little bit last year. I mean, he was really good, but all the 5 guys we have that coming back that played a lot are better. They've all really improved. And we had Alan Griffin, who's a really good scorer, and Kadari Richmond, who's a really good point guard. So
I've heard good things, yeah.
people didn't know he was a point guard. He is a point guard. So he's really good. Our big guys got better, stronger. Marek Kane-Waite. We got a couple young big guys that are pretty good. So this is the best group we've had in a while, I think. And, at the end of last year, we were playing better and beating North Carolina by 28.
Yeah.
Down at North Carolina. It wasn't, neutral site or someplace. They were playing pretty good at the end of the year. So I think we got a really good team. I think hopefully we're going to be able to figure out a way to play these games, because this COVID is not going away. It's going to be here for a couple of years. There's not going to be any miracle cure, I don't think. So we've got to figure out a way to play as many games as we can, just like they have on the golf tournament, golf tour, baseball, basketball, NBA, soccer. We got to figure out a way to play, and I think we will. And I think it'll be a great, fun year, and I'm looking forward to this team. I think people will like this team. They play hard. They're pretty talented.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we all need something in Cuse. Wintertime. If we don't have basketball in the wintertime, it's going to be tough around here.
I think we'll have it. All right.
Appreciate you coming on.
Glad to be here. Good seeing you. We'll see you soon.
Hey, guys, I appreciate you joining me on the first podcast with our guest, Hall of Fame coach Jim Boeheim. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast on the brand new Field of 68 network. We're going to be talking Cuse basketball every week. We're going to have former Syracuse legends on. So make sure you guys subscribe. Looking forward to it.